For a game to be able to maintain its relevancy, it needs two key things, and those two key things are a community and gameplay. You might argue that one of them might be way more important than the other, but they're both incredibly important when it comes to the development of a game. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about how Geometry Dash hasn't yet died yet. I'm going to go into a little bit of some background. We're going to go into just about everything. So let's get In the year 2012, most likely, a random Swedish guy came up with the idea of a new game. At the time, a mobile game known as the Impossible game was popping off at the time. The concept was very simple. All it was a square jumping on some platforms. However, this concept had some insane potential, and it likely was making the creator tons of bread. So obviously, people would like to create a similar game to take home some money, and thus the idea of Geometry Dash was born. Obviously, a few tweaks would need to be made so that way the game would stand out, but eventually in August 2013, the game was released to the public. However, the game didn't really gain a whole lot of traction. The community for the game on websites like YouTube are very limited, and the game didn't really stand out for a whole long time. But there was one revolutionary feature the game had that the competition didn't, and that was a simple button on the main screen. That was the online section. And on the top right corner, there's a button that allowed you to create your own levels. Obviously this tool is very limited, but you can create some mundane art at best at the time. But this section was separated the game from others, and it will be the birth of many game-changing creations. Over the course of a year and a few months, 8 updates were released, each including new features to the game. However, in November 2014, one of the most important updates was released. On November 9th, 2014, a groundbreaking update was released. This update added many new things. However, the most important portion of the update was easily the introduction of custom songs from the website Newgrounds, which allows you to upload custom and original digital creations. Also, the update allowed you to use 4 color channels instead of 1, which allowed for levels to be a little bit more strictly themed, but also still allowed for a ton of versatility in some levels. This update also changed the game by allowing it onto Steam, which now allows PC users to play the game without having malware installed onto their computer. This also allowed for tons of advancements in terms of level creation. Without this update, tons of the biggest levels we know and love today would have not existed, and tons of GD YouTubers blowing up at the time only continued to expand the community. However, if something blows up online, you need to add more content to continue. In the late summer of 2015, the game developer dropped a brand new update. This update now allowed for 999 color channels and even added triggers, like the move trigger, which allows you to move objects, pulse trigger, which allows you to briefly change the color of an object only using 1 trigger instead of 2. My personal favorites, the alpha and toggle triggers. With all this new content, people are sure to make the most breathtaking levels, right? Fuck no, people made the most hideous levels known to mankind. And they got features sometimes too. However, as people began getting more adjusted to the update, the trigger abuse kind of died down, but it was still a huge thing. Even nowadays, even in the big 2024, it's still an issue. But eventually, a new update was due. And the next update was the most packed out of them all. In January 2017, the largest update thus far was released. Update 2.1 introduced tons of useful triggers like the pickup trigger, which to this day I barely understand how those triggers work, but that's a me problem most likely. Anyways, the hype for the new update was huge for about a year. However, in 2018, the community began to die off. The next anticipated update seemed like it was a long ways out, and there was a lack of things happening in the community, until some Dutch guy named Nobbleboy verified a top 1 known as Bloodlust, which immediately placed it at the number 1 spot. Years proceeded, yet there was very little word on the update. However, the community still wasn't dying, and that was because after Bloodlust was verified, the community was going through a massive breakthrough. It seemed like every week there was a new best-looking level that was being seen, and many legendary players were also blowing up at this time, like Technical, Doggy, and most recently Zoink, Trick, and maybe even Crisis. Eventually, right before Christmas in 2023, on Tuesday, December 19th, 2023, the update 2.2 was finally dropped. And so far, the update has been going pretty smoothly, despite the lobotomy trend earlier in the update's history. It's safe to say that the community has carried this game to where it is now. Anyways, if you want to see some extreme demons that are forgotten about, then you can click the video on the center of the screen. I'll see you there. Subscribe on your way in if you want to. And just comment, yo, I'm here, bro.